initially, the aircraft was coming in to land at the airport when the accident occurred. Since that time, after interviewing witnesses and also garnering statements from some local observers in the area, we've made a determination that the aircraft at the time, that the occupants were practicing what are called touch-and-go landings. They were landing on runway 18. Witnesses observed the first set of landings where the aircraft came in, touched down, appeared to be moving faster than normal, bounced approximately twice, and then took off again, and then went around the traffic pattern, and then came around again for another set of landings. During the second set of landings, the aircraft touched down again, this time, according to witnesses, not as fast. However, the aircraft flared, in other words, actually assumed a landing attitude approximately 10 to 15 feet above the pavement of the runway. The aircraft appeared to have dropped, bounced a second time, became airborne, and then rolled to the left, and then impacted just prior to the perimeter security fence at the airport. The aircraft then passed through the perimeter security fence, came onto the roadway, and came to rest, and a post-crash fire ensued. At this point, we have been advised that we have one fatality and one serious injury. As part of the investigative process, we'll be looking at a number of things. We'll be looking at the physiology of both occupants of the aircraft, make a determination whether or not something physical or physiological may have affected their performance. We'll be looking at the aircraft itself to determine if the structure was complete when the aircraft came to rest. In other words, do we have all four corners of the aircraft? Was the aircraft structurally sound? We'll also be looking at the flight control system on the aircraft to make a determination whether the flight control systems were functioning properly in both the pitch axis, which is the nose going up and down, the yaw axes, which is the aircraft moving left and right, and the roll axes, which is the aircraft rolling. Additionally, we'll be looking at the power plant on the aircraft, which is the engine itself that drives the propeller, and we'll be looking for such things as whether the engine was producing power or the propeller was turning at the time of impact. Now, currently, from measurements and observations that we've taken on scene, we determined that after the aircraft impacted on the perimeter or close to the perimeter fence, that the aircraft, after sliding through the fence, traveled approximately 130 feet before coming to rest. Along with the associated large fragments of the aircraft, there's also a debris field which exists, which consists of both cockpit items as well as small subcomponents of the airplane and portions of the structure. Now, the way an NTSB investigation works is that we will be on scene here for approximately 2 to 3 days, and in that time we're the equivalent of a vacuum cleaner. We'll be taking in all sorts of evidence, any type of data, photographs, witness interviews, and observations. At the same time we're here, we'll also be checking meteorology in the area that was occurring. In other words, could there have been something with the weather that may have affected the performance of the aircraft or the performance of the pilot? Once we complete the field phase of the investigation, myself and my investigative team will return to our offices in Washington, D.C., and then approximately 10 days later, the NTSB will provide a preliminary report that's a matter of public record that will be available on our website at www.ntsb.gov. Now, the preliminary report is factual in nature, however, it is subject to change as we garner more information. One of the things we're tasked with by the United States Congress is to go ahead and look at both the facts, conditions, and the circumstances surrounding the accident. So in addition to looking at the aircraft, as I said before, we'll be also looking at the conditions in the area as well as a number of other things. Now, at any time during the investigation, if the NTSB finds of anything that could be of concern to the traveling public, pilots, aviation general, mechanics, air traffic controllers, or airport operators, we can issue recommendations at any time. Approximately 9 months to a year after we returned from the field and we've completed that preliminary report, the NTSB will issue a factual report. That factual report will also have an associated public docket which will have that data and materials included with it, which is available publicly. Then approximately 60 to 90 days after that, the Safety Board, which are the 5 members that are appointed by the President of the United States, will issue a statement of probable cause. And with that, I have time for a few questions.
Do you know at this point which of the 2 occupants was in control of the aircraft?
No, we don't. We know that they were both seated in the front of the aircraft at the time. There were only 2 occupants on board. It is a 4-seat aircraft, but we're not clear at this time exactly who may have been flying the aircraft.
Just to confirm, you said from the witnesses, it was that second set of landing when they came in that the issues occurred. They did one when they came in fast. The second time through was when the crash
That's correct. During the first approach they came in, the aircraft bounced twice, went back airborne again, came back around, and then on the second set, on the second bounce, the aircraft ended up flaring about 10 to 50, well, excuse me, the aircraft flared about 10 to 15 feet high, bounced, and then went airborne again, rolled to the left, and then impacted.
Do you know if the airplane was trying to take off again at that point, after just having done the test maneuver?
No, we don't. We do know that from witnesses that the aircraft did appear to pitch up after it bounced, and just prior to the roll with it rolling to the left. When the aircraft came to rest, it was almost 90 degrees to the runway heading, which is about 180 degrees magnetic.
Do you know if they both had pilot license, or was one in training, or?
That's something we're looking into right now. We do know that one person is listed by the Federal Aviation Administration as being a licensed pilot.
Does the fire make your investigation any more difficult, or any challenges that poses you have to deal with?
There's always challenges whether an aircraft's been damaged by fire, whether by impact forces, etc.
Can you tell us whether it was the older gentleman or the younger gentleman?
I couldn't tell you. That would be supposition.
Are you, Todd, at this point able, or maybe the police, to tell us what the condition of the other occupants in the plane is in the hospital?
I couldn't tell you that.
Will investigators look to visit him while he's still in the hospital, or when will that?
That'll depend on the condition, his prognosis, and what we're advised by his medical aides and medical help.
Can you mention the debris field? I mean, does that make your job that much more difficult if you're dealing with so many small pieces?
It's a matter of physics whether or not the aircraft is highly fragmented. It has to do with the impact angle of the aircraft, the speed the aircraft's traveling at the time, and also the construction of the aircraft.
And you said, Todd, you're like a vacuum cleaner, so have you picked up most of the parts that you think are necessary to bring back to your investigation in Washington?
Yeah, what will happen is once we go ahead and complete the portion of the field phase, the aircraft will be brought to a secure location, and what we will do is we'll actually do what's called a 2D layout or two-dimensional layout, and at that point we'll go ahead and re-examine the aircraft at that time under controlled conditions. Right now we're currently in the process of removing it from the roadway and putting it under secure storage until we can go ahead and move it.
So this road's going to be closed for a little while as you continue your investigation?
Up until probably in a few hours we will open the road back up.
Was there damage to the roadway or anything else on the road?
Not that I could tell you. You need to talk to the Department of Transportation. I have time for one more question, and then I got to get back to work.
How many total witnesses have you spoke to? Because obviously a pretty busy road here, but how many witness statements?
Currently, we've spoken to 3 witnesses, and we have a few others that have called in.
So let's say follow on that. There were possible reports that the survivor was dragged out by Good Samaritans. Any information on how that young man was able to get out?
We've heard that also, and that's something we're looking into.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just so you know, for any follow-up, you can reach our Public Affairs Duty Officer at 202-314-6100. And just ask for the Public Affairs or Media Duty Officer, and someone will talk to you. Okay? Thank you.